Welcome to the Youngstown Penguin Football Podcast. I'm your host, Sal Guardo. With me, as always, former quarterback Kurt Hess, former defensive lineman Kyle Searle, and former director of football operations Dan Kopp. After a crazy heartbreak by South Dakota, the Yotes, apparently as they go by, as I just learned from that game, beat the Penguins 31 to 34. And the best way I could describe it is a great quote from legendary coach Dennis Green. They were who we thought they were, and we let them off the hook. But before we get into the game and recapping it, just real quick, again, this is Youngstown Football Penguin Podcast. Anywhere podcast can be found. Please find us, give us a 5-star review, share us. We're also on Instagram, Whitetown Penguin Podcast, monitored by Kurt. And we are, of course, on YouTube Live now. The chat is live and going, and Kyle Searle is monitoring. So please ask any questions you need straight through there, and we'll get you on the show tonight. Real quick recap of what was a crazy game. Again, South Dakota wins 34-31. First quarter, pair of field goals by each team, 3-3. Going into the second quarter, South Dakota strikes first on a 34-yard run, making it 10-3. And then on a 36-yard pass, making it to 17-3 at halftime. Youngstown State still without a touchdown. Third quarter start, South Dakota takes it, and they go down and score again, 24-3. Things are not looking like it's going to happen. And then, behold and behold, a 65-yard touchdown pass by Mitch Davidson puts the Penguins on the board, 24-10 for our first touchdown. South Dakota quickly answers with a 56-yard pass, making it 31-10. At this point, the ESPN.com predictor had South Dakota a 98% chance to win the game. However, as we know mostly from last year, you can never count the Penguins out. Penguins score right before the end of the quarter on a 66-yard pass from Mitch Davidson for another quick touchdown, making it 31-17 going into the fourth quarter. Penguins answer again with a touchdown, and then again with a touchdown, making it 31-31. And then the Penguins get the ball back with a chance to kick a winning field goal. And after going backwards, and backwards, a punt will have to give South Dakota a chance to run their 19-second drive to kick the winning field goal, 34-31. South Dakota Coyotes win the game, unfortunately. And we are definitely going to unwrap this one with some detail. I'm going to flip it over to Kurt before I give my own breakdown on his thoughts on the offense.
First off, overall, just very disheartening. This is the toughest way to lose. You get down early. Offensively, we were stale early on. Didn't really hit a lot of explosive plays. A couple plays here or there that go the wrong way for us. And next thing you know, South Dakota, who, give them credit a little bit, their offense was probably better than they had played all season and better than we had seen in terms of passing. I know you guys will get into that in a little bit, but coming back from 24-3, tying it up, and then having a chance to win the ball game late with the ball is really all you can ask for, especially on the road. So in terms of cardiac kids, in terms of grit you, definitely on full effect. But it's a conference game. You can't have those lulls. You can't have the inconsistent play. Penalties really torched us, especially on that last drive. I felt like when we got that ball back late, a couple holding penalties. I know Coach Phillips addressed it a little bit in the press conference. Quarterback play was pretty good overall. It was solid. Brungard got in there a little bit. Mitch took care of the football. Offensively, Dre Rushton, I think, had about 110 yards. So interesting to see he got a little bit more run this week. So, keep an eye on that if that's an injury or something. I'm not sure with Tyshawn, completely making that up. I have no connection to the athletic training room whatsoever. Just something to keep an eye on. Maybe just go with the hot hand there. Tom Zach, definitely a bright spot for us. 6 catches. I think he had a $134, something like that. As well as I think one of our younger freshmen, number 81, hit that big explosive play to I think that brought it to 24-10, and it was like, hey, we're still in this. This is 2 scores. It's easy to turn around and, fold after that moment. But Tough play, tough game for the officials. I think we sent in a couple plays. I know I don't want to talk too much about this because it's not for me to really talk about. But
Kurt,
hearing
yes, it
some
is.
rumors.
It's a
But geez,
podcast.
guys, like
Say it.
there's legit two plays that got sent in to the league office that were in favor of the Coyotes and not us. And when an offensive lineman is 5 yards downfield and they throw an RPO for a touchdown pass to hit essentially the game-winning touchdown that got them to 31 points, and the league office says, "Oh yeah, this was a legal man downfield here." Like
Did,
he's standing right next to the
did you
referee, and they
post
throw a
that on the
touchdown pass.
Instagram?
Yeah, I posted it on Instagram. I even did a little pause thing, and I put a little flag there and said, what's her name who created the penalty flag for us? They got it as an emoji, man.
Whitetown
Jeez.
Penguin podcast. You could see the exact play Curdy's talking about.
Jeez. Yeah, exact play. 5 yards down the field. Couple holding calls late. Shout out to our O lineman. I know Coach Phillips was, Aiden Parker probably feels terrible right now. He got a holding call on an explosive play even early in the game. Something a little bit later, and officials should not decide the game. No, we should not have gotten down 24-3, but officials should not decide the game.
Tell me if I'm wrong. On a pass play for the audience, if you are throwing a forward pass, the offensive line can't be beyond 1 yard of the line of scrimmage. Is that the rule? Or is it 2 yards? I know the
I think it's
NFL's
within
one.
2.5 yards.
Right.
Anything over 2 should
And
be
he
called.
was a solid five. But
Legit, it was line to line. The line of
Yeah.
scrimmage was on the line. He was standing on what, the 50 or something?
right. But over to Dan.
Oof.
Yeah, obviously it was heartbreaking for anyone that's a Penguin fan to watch that. I'll be quick. I thought there were just a couple of points that stood out to me after this loss because I was trying to obviously we're all trying to remain positive because, Coach Phillips said our guys fought, man. They played till the end, but offensively, I feel like we can score from anywhere. Whether we throwing a deep ball like Kurt mentioned or running the ball, we're on the right side of the 30-20 rule offensively. We can run the ball. It wasn't Tyshawn this week. It was Dre. We've got 3 to 4 good wide receivers. You brought up Max, CJ. Those guys are good. Kurt mentioned it. Kurt knows best. Our quarterback play, I feel, is well enough to be a 5-1 team. He hangs in there, takes shots. I mean, you guys saw it. Mitch is playing well. But our defense, plain and simple, the 30-20 rule on the road, we're giving up 44 in Northern Iowa and 34 at South Dakota. That doesn't fit when you're going to go on the road. And the penalties those were killers at crucial moments. And when you're coming down the stretch, those kind of penalties, those moments will bite you. But I don't want to talk too much because I was heartbroken. I mean, we came all the way back. I thought we were going to win the game, maybe a 2-minute to get that field goal, and we did. But, man, we were texting one another when it was 24-3, right? And, man, it was – you don't know in those moments, is it going to end up 34-3? Well, it didn't. So credit to our second half. We came out in the second half. Other than that, was it a slant we gave up for the home run ball? Right out of the gate, first possession.
One that brought 31 points. It was never mind. That was an explosive play.
Yeah, maybe it was. I'm thinking of the wrong play. But either way, we couldn't get that stop coming out. But fought back. But and referees, man, I could go on like you said. It reminded me of the 2011 South Dakota State game at YSU. But I'll get into that later when they said Josh Lee fumbled a punt when he absolutely did not. So. Right. But you can't let the referees decide it. But, man, those are just my quick points of the game, the good things and the things that, you guys, plain and simple, we can't give up. We got to tackle better and can't give up those big plays. So, that's all I got. Kyle?
Yeah, so heartbreak is an understatement. I'm glad that we are live on a Wednesday because I was still pretty heated yesterday on a Tuesday. I just feel like we should do that after our losses, take an extra day and just collect our thoughts.
That's actually why we did this. So you want to grind your gears.
So, one thing I love about this team, absolutely love about this team, is it is very clear and apparent that they are extremely talented and they do not quit. Plain and simple, they do not quit. They can absolutely play through adversity. My problem with the team is sometimes they create their own adversity, whether it's getting behind in points early, um, untimely penalties. I played the game. I've had 15-yard penalties, roughing the passer that, gives the offense a first down. But when it is 4th and 4 and you leave your feet on a punt and you give that team, I don't care if it's the first drive of the game, I feel like that is just a bad tone to start with. And it goes along the lines of the pre and post snap penalties. Like, yes, it is in the play, it is in between the whistles, but it is so fundamental to stay on your feet for a kick. Those kickers are trolls, man. They get so many plays. Like, we got one in our fantasy football league. He loves to troll us any chance he gets. Like, if they're going to have an opportunity to flop and take some yards, they're absolutely going to do it. So I was extremely heated at that point in the game, and I wasn't surprised that we bowed up. We kept them to 3 after that. That's fine, but ultimately, we lost the penalty game. We had 10 for 75. They had 4 for 30. Like, that's only 40 some yards, but it added up in the end. And they were 3 of 9 on third downs. So they weren't in third down very often. So they were converting prior to their third downs. I think a big thing was we gave up 369 yards passing and had 0 sacks. So credit to the South Dakota's offense for getting the ball out quickly, but we gotta do better getting after the quarterback consistently week to week. And that, if our identity on offense is rushing the ball, our identity on defense needs to be getting after that quarterback consistently and making him throw some balls he doesn't want to throw. So explosive plays. They had one opportunity in the red zone and they came away with 3 points. So everything else, all their scores came out from outside the end zone. So once again, I don't want to end on a bad thing. This team fought until to the very end. I just am wildly disappointed because it is very apparent that this team is wickedly talented and they have no problem scoring from behind and getting points in chunks. And I wish that we would do that and command a lead and not create behind point adversity for ourselves. And that's all I got to say about it.
Just my breakdown of the game. Sir, I think you were saying the same as me last week. We're talking about keys of the game. We said one of the big keys of the game is just clean up the little stuff, the penalties, the turnovers, just the little things. And we didn't do that. We had penalties. We turned the ball over, and that's what South Dakota lives on. That's what they do. They just don't do those things. They take advantage of when other teams do. So that was my big I guess beef with the game. And then lastly, just speaking on defensive point, and it may be just me, I feel like, and obviously we'll see, I'm sure the coaches already saw on the film, I feel like the flats were open all day for them. And our defensive line last few weeks have really gone after the quarterback, and they didn't get after the quarterback, as you sort of mentioned, as well. And it allowed them to sit back there. And, on the tight screen of the TV, you can't really see all the routes, but all you saw was someone would catch it in the flats and a secondary would show up late after he picked up 5-10 yards. That probably needs to be cleaned up, and I'm sure we will clean it up. But I mean, you guys tell me if I'm wrong. This team, South Dakota, was not that good. They're not that good of a team. They just showed up ready, and we just showed up a little flat, and then we got our act together there in the second half. But before we wrap it up, I mean, Do you guys think we're better than this team?
Yeah, I think that we're better than this team, but you can't sit there and say that this team isn't that good when they clearly had us beat in the first half. Like, yes, we came back and made it a game in the
If
second
this was in
half.
the ice castle, I think we blow this team out.
The fact of the matter is, it wasn't in the ice castle, and you can't keep saying from week to week, I don't think this team was that good. I don't think if this team was good enough to beat us at home, they would be good enough to beat us at the ice castle. The fact is, we lost the game, and they made more plays than we did because they're a good team. Do I think they're better than the Penguins? No. Do I think
Do you think they're better than Northern Iowa?
Do they play them this year? They might be. I think that the Missouri Sal, we talk about it every week that the Missouri Valley is a gauntlet period. So you can't say, oh, these three teams are the only good teams in the Missouri Valley because South Dakota is not as good as Northern Iowa. They're not good. They're all
I'm
good.
not saying that at all. I'm just saying that Northern Iowa, I feel like that Northern Iowa game, they were the better team that day. The South Dakota team, I don't think they were the better team. We lost.
Well,
the
it's
game.
hard to say. It's hard to say when you play 2.5 quarters of really good football, and you the 1.5 quarters that you don't play very well, you get behind in points quickly, and then
Yeah.
South Dakota's surviving for the second half, making enough plays to beat us. And I don't like this. The refs blow calls, and we talked about it earlier. Is don't be in a position for a ref's blown call to dictate the outcome of a game, and that's why I'm frustrated, and that's why I'm pissed off. Is because this team can rip off points almost at will. They're like, okay, we're down 17 points, let's tie it up. Why can't you have that mentality when it's 0-0 and be like, we're down 17 points and rip off 17 points and go up 17-0?
Right. Well,
That's what I'm irritated
I don't want
about.
to get it because I'm not going to step into Kurt's segment, so I'm going to kind of hold off because that's next. Yeah, are we good to leave this one behind us? Any last thoughts? We're good. All right, let's transition. Kurt, over to you on the IG segment. We moved it a little earlier in the show tonight because obviously it has to do mostly with the South Dakota game. So over to you.
Yeah, definitely. Just going to give a couple shout outs here, get some fans involved. Asked the question earlier this week. What is our biggest challenges on the road? We seem to have some challenges on the road. It's not the football gods coming back after us, though, for real. Like last year, I know we really were able to come back in some games and win those. So don't for a second, I don't believe in that crap. Like the football gods are not coming back after us. So we come back and then we lose all these games. You still control your own destiny for sure. Pap Attack 95 hit us with some costly miscues. We talked a little bit about the penalties and stuff. Shout out Nathan Gibbs, YSU alum, former player. Just tale of two teams, calls it what it is. Defense kind of struggled there for a little bit. Offense struggled there for a little bit, but tale of two teams. We talk about three phases of the game and playing for 4 quarters. Coach Kopp talks about the 30-20 rule. You got to be able to handle all three phases of the game. Secondary getting torched by Buffalo Wolf 33. Shout out Kristen Seidler, works in the equipment room for us. We've known her for a long time. Just straight up penalties. She's saying penalties is something that costs us and don't leave the game up to the officials. Rich Wolf, same thing, penalties. My favorite had to be Dante SRU. 3, though, was clearly we did not go to South Dakota and win because Jeff Crystal was not catering on the road. When he caters at home, we usually win. So shout out to Dante for giving us that one. Going down the road, going down the list here, letting up big plays. Crucial penalties and crucial moments. Somebody calling out the coaching. I don't know what you guys think about that, calling out the coaching. We've been super positive with the coaching. I know these guys play really, really tough the whole game for 60 minutes. Sometimes it's, could come down to execution, as well as, pass defense, kind of just really getting hit hard. Instagram for the secondary. I know that was kind of a topic of conversation for the UNI game, but how do you boys feel about kind of that secondary taking the brunt of this loss? Is that fair, or are we jumping to conclusions here?
My personal opinion, y'all, I'll dive in. And again, I got to really watch film to say this for sure, but I know everyone kind of questioned the secondary. I almost no, I don't want to go on record saying this, but could the secondary potentially be hiding behind the curtain that is the defensive line slash linebackers? Are the defensive line putting so much pressure on the quarterback that it makes them look good against Southern Hill? And when they take a day off, they get exposed? I don't know that just because I know the defensive line wasn't as dominant as they were, in some of those wins. So jury's still out, but that could be a potential worry for the hopefully for the hopefully for the postseason. If we make it there, that could be a worry.
I mean, if the question is, what's the biggest challenges on the road? Is that kind of part of what we're talking about? Everyone on this show knows how hard it is to travel in this conference, right? I mean, I think we travel pretty well. We charter flights. The hotels are what they are. But maybe it's the secondary, maybe it's the D line, but I feel like getting those crucial third down stops are the difference. I mean, we couldn't get off the field. You guys talk money down, right? On certain plays where I feel both road losses. You're right, Sal. There it is, money down. Did it before Johnny Manziel was doing it. That we just aren't getting off the field on some of those third down plays. And I think there were times where South Dakota did get off the field on third down plays. If Kyle knows, right? If you can't get to the quarterback, and that big old 6'5" dude they had, I mean, he was kind of just standing there tapping the ball, right, Kurt, and had time to throw it. And, it's those are the ones that cost you. And the travel, I don't know. It's hard. I mean, if we fly into a place and on game day we're busing an hour to the stadium. I envy the teams that come to Youngstown. They stay in Boardman. They got a 15-minute bus ride, and they pull them right into the stadium. The travel's tough, but it's like the referees. You got to get past that. I don't know. We're like two or three plays from being 5-1. So it's hard to play. It's hard to travel in this conference. The teams are all good. I mean, how big was South Dakota's offensive line, and our D line didn't get the pressure. So I don't know if that answers.
Is it the director of football operations' fault?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So
You didn't make sure everyone was up in time for the pregame meal, or what?
You never know. I mean, hey, maybe they didn't get a good walkthrough Saturday morning. I don't know, but man.
But Dan, open mind, that's a lot to it, man. The director of football ops, making sure everything goes smoothly on the road. As you know, that was your job, and I mean, I don't know who it is now.
Worst part of the job is the travel. Worst part of the job.
Players got to get themselves ready. Like, call it what it is. That quarterback, looking at his stats, 24-29 for 360. That quarterback was better than we thought, possibly better than the team thought. But of the last three quarterbacks, this dude, Theo Day, and Nick Baker, right, Southern Hill, we thought this dude would be worse than both of those, and he outperformed those guys. So,
it's a good
dude
point.
had a hell of a game.
That's a really good point.
You three thought he was going to be worse than those guys.
He hadn't shown it.
I thought this kid was extremely efficient coming into this game. I think our biggest road challenge is playing 4 solid quarters of football. I feel like there is a quarter where it seems like nothing is going right, and it happened at UNI. Like, we got up big, and then we had, I think, a second quarter collapse, and then we were tied up, or whatever the case. This just so happened to be, the first quarter here where we got down quick and couldn't get anything going. In terms of the defense, I mean, it's a unit, and the game is set up that the rules and penalties favor the offense. And those secondary guys are out there on an island, and there's a lot of space to cover, and it really helps them when the defensive line gets after the quarterback. It helps the defensive line when the coverage is best and the quarterback has to go to a second or third read and they get an extra step or a step and a half to get to the quarterback. That stuff doesn't sound like a lot, but it adds up in a game, especially if it's consistently. And, one step could be a hit on the quarterback and a step and a half could be a sack. And that's just the difference in the game. And we just have to figure out how to get those two units to just, if they don't even have to play their best football, they just have to play good at the same time. If the defensive line is playing their best football and the secondary is playing their worst, the offense is going to move the ball. And if the secondary is playing their best football and the defensive line can't get any pressure, that's when you get pass interferences and defensive holdings and all kinds of crap. So I just think that those two units need to gel a little bit better and come to play. I think we just got to get focused early on the road, which, like Kurt said, it's our job as players to be ready and be prepared. And, whether that's getting your body ready to play, whether it's getting your mind ready to play, it's like you're not there to enjoy South Dakota on a vacation. Like you're getting there ready to handle your business. Like you're there for
get up on
a
that
business
bird.
trip. You're gonna win the game and get up on the bird, come home. And I don't know. I haven't been in the locker room for, I don't know, what is it, going on 10 years now? I remember, losing road games. That plane's dead silent the whole way home. And I don't know what the mentality is on the way home. Do you just chalk it up and it's like, oh, we lost a close one? I mean, we got 2 losses on the road in the conference by a total of 6 points.
Yep.
That's not bad. But the fact is that still equals 2 losses.
I was just going to say that, Kyle. 5-second blurb here. We're 6 points from being 5-1, not 24 points. We're talented enough. Sal's we're as good. We're just as good, if not better, than South Dakota. But we didn't win the game, so we got to just move on. But that's why it's heartbreaking.
Well, and I was trying to compare what you're kind of saying, so I was trying to compare the UNI to South Dakota trip, and UNI, we got going like first quarter. We dominated. We got up from the get-go, and then South Dakota, we didn't. We were sort of flat, and like you said, we turned it on. We wanted to turn it on. So you can't really even compare those 2 road games. I mean, we were ready to go from the start, and the other one we weren't, and it was like the same result. We lost, but.
I got a quick question here. I have something to address. Cyril, go ahead. You got something else.
None. I was going to just talk about like the season as a whole. So if you want to address something, go ahead.
Yeah, no, you guys said something that I thought would be really fun for the listeners is like, okay, say we do lose and somebody giggles on the plane. What are Wolf and Haycock doing to that guy?
Oh, they're kissing the bleachers, kissing the top bleacher in the stadium.
This happened
all day.
That night or the next
you
morning?
remember this?
That night or the next morning?
That night. So we flew home from a game, and there were like 3 guys. They were like walk-ons, specialist guys. 3 guys laughing, and someone, was it from the newspaper, was with us in the airport. It was like after we lost, and someone with the newspaper was there, and there was like 3 guys kind of in the corner of the airport, messing around, laughing, ha ha ha. And it was in the newspaper the next day that Youngstown State doesn't care anymore. They were laughing. This was like in 2008, 2009, that they don't care anymore, yada, yada. And it was just, to your point, like, that's bad vibes if you're laughing carrying on after a loss.
Yeah. That is the world of 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds. Coaches, it's the only industry in the world where your average employee is the age of 20, and you're relying on that. And so, Sal, just traveling it's hell in this conference, man. Just to win on the road, and we darn near should be 5-1. That's what's frustrating for me. In fact, I'm not going to talk anymore because I'll go on a rant. So
What I was going to say is, we're 3-3, and we have the whole season in front of us still. This is a very good team, but what bothers me is we still have Missouri Valley football left. We have a couple road games left. Granted, they're not against the best teams in this conference, but this team has proven they can play through adversity and bow up when it counts. But here's the deal. You got South Dakota State on the schedule, and Sal said he's not worried about the Jackrabbits at home like he was with South Dakota State or South Dakota on the road. But 7-4, if you're banking on a 7-4 record getting you in, it didn't get you in last year. You got to make a statement to the committee and control your own destiny. You have to win out, and that's why I'm frustrated with letting, I think, 2 very winnable games get away from us, because they got away early, and now we have the second half of the season to go, and it's do or die. Every game.
You guys good with the IG segment? Let's transition. Guys, just recapping what happened to the rest of the Valley last week and going over our picks. Just a quick recap. We picked 7 games. Of the 7, I was actually the only one for winning record. I got 4 right. Dan had 3, and Kurt and Searle had 2. So overall, I am finally on the scoreboard on my first win of the week. I have 1 point, and so do Dan and Searle, and Kurt is the overall leader still with 3 picks. Recapping what happened, starting, of course, at the big game of the week. North Dakota State was at North Dakota. On the big upset, North Dakota won 49-24 in a very dominating fashion. I hate to say I told you so, but I told you so. The dynasty of North Dakota State is slowly dying as Klein, their former head coach, he left Kansas State like 5 years ago. Their great defensive coordinators at Northwestern, they don't have it anymore. So they are now the worst team in the Dakotas, and I will be shocked if they make the playoffs.
Hey,
And
great job, Sal.
Playoffs,
Great job, Sal. Good job.
if they make the playoffs, it'll be BS because it's purely off what they did the last 10 years, not what they did this year. But regardless, Youngstown State, as we mentioned, at South Dakota with the heartbreak 34-31. Indiana State at Illinois State. Illinois State dominates 44-7. Southern Illinois at Murray State. Southern Illinois wins 37-6. Northern Iowa at South Dakota State. South Dakota State wins and covers 41-6. Missouri State at Western Illinois. Missouri State wins and covers 48-7. And then the big upset that only Dan Cup had picked, number 10 Montana knocks off number 3 Idaho, which was the late night match on ESPN2 Saturday night. Montana wins 23-21 on the road. Kudos to Montana, and my apologies. I think I called them frauds. I apologize. I was definitely wrong on Montana. So kudos to that. Any other games of the weekend, FBS or FCS anyone want to talk about?
USC goes down to Notre Dame, man.
Who?
Go ahead.
Well, how about Washington and Penix, who
Yeah.
the Heisman, not to upset anyone, he is a Tampa Bay Tech high school alum. So Tampa guy could be winning the first Heisman. Congrats to Washington on that big. That was a fun game to watch.
How about punting the
The
ball?
first Tampa guy.
If you're the Oregon coach, how about punting the ball instead of going for it at
I like the last 4th down because he was going to win the game if he converted.
Yeah.
Bo Nix choked. Anywho, going over the top 25, which is very interesting. So the updated top 25, the AP and the coaches are drastically different, but it's very interesting. On the AP, South Dakota State still number 1. South Dakota number 6 now. North Dakota 11, Southern Ill 12. North Dakota State drops to 14. And lo and behold, your Youngstown State Penguins are ranked number 25, the only team without a winning record in the top 25. Illinois State and Northern Illinois are getting votes. However, you flip to the coaches poll, Illinois State is number 25 and Youngstown State is the one receiving votes. So technically, number 25 versus number 25 are matching up this weekend. I have a feeling the winner will be ranked in both polls and the loser will not be ranked in both polls. So very interesting from the top 25 perspective. Real quick, let me just transition here. So transitioning real quick before we dive into next week's game, just looking at the rest of Youngstown State's schedule. We mentioned this a couple times. We said, hey, we get 3 strikes after Ohio State. Strike 1 was Northern Iowa. Strike 2 was South Dakota. You kind of mentioned it, Searles, as far as I said South Dakota State. I feel like we could win that game. How you guys feeling? Because we learned last year if we lose again, we're out of the playoffs. But we got a lot of respect being number 25. Things could be different. How y'all feel about the rest of the year and our chances of making the playoffs?
I mean, I think that it's.
Go ahead, Cheryl.
I think everything's in front of us still. I mean, I think that like if you do chalk up another loss, you're gambling on a committee that didn't appreciate your resume last year, and that's what bothers me, and that's what what I'm saying is like to go assert yourself and to just take what you deserve.
Yeah, go. Personally, man, the player in you, I never like to think about the entire season. You truly have to, like Coach Phillips said at his presser, you truly have to wake up the next day, let yourself be completely miserable on Saturday, or let yourself celebrate completely on Saturday. But come Sunday, it's a job. So truly, as a player, the mindset is 1-0. That's it. From an outsider's perspective this year, I think there's a path where we can lose to South Dakota State and still make the playoffs. South Dakota State is a really good freaking team. And this Illinois State team gave them some points. I watched that game recently, yesterday. They gave them some points. There were some holes in that Illinois State defense where South Dakota State's scoring, and they should not be scoring. So if we can knock off this Illinois State team, win out the rest of the games, lose by a score at home to a team that doesn't ever – I don't think they didn't lose last year. They have looked great against everybody. I think there's a path. So as an outsider's perspective, I think we can lose that game with a good game. If we get blown out, you probably kiss it goodbye, because I think the committee's going to want to take everything. Patty told us that committee is going to take in everything that they can, take account everything that they can. But if we don't play 1-0 football every week, we're going to get tripped up. And maybe one of these games we were looking ahead to something. I don't know. But player mentality is 1-0. I need to win this week or we're dead, like Searle said.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's still a path there. Sal, as you mentioned, we're ranked 25th in one of the polls, right? So they're obviously respecting that. We have lost to Ohio State, who's number 3 in the country at the big boy level, whatever. And we lost 2 games on the road by a total of 6 points. Now, you hit on the head. We can't if we lose another game, it's got to be South Dakota State, but not 49-7 or something like that. I don't think we're going to lose to them that way, anyways. But I do agree there's still a path, but we got to take care of business. Nothing matters other than Illinois State right now, the old cliche, and you touched on it. And 7-4 with, but it'll be close. It's scary to put it in the hands of someone else, but if that's how it ends up being, it's going to come down to how we played South Dakota State.
Yeah, and Kurt, to your point, last year the big stink was we didn't have a good win on our resume. We didn't have a resume win that put us on the map. And I think that huge dominating win against Southern Illinois is why we are number 25 and why a close one of the Jackrabbits could put us in, assuming we went out the rest of the way.
Well, that's also assuming.
Yeah.
That's also assuming Illinois State has a pretty good second half of their season. If they
That's
end up
true.
losing out, then that doesn't look like a good quality win. So like there's the
Southern
the
Illinois.
There's a
game
lot
that
of
we take.
variables for sure.
Yeah, well that's what
Yeah,
I'm saying. We
yeah.
had the double. What did I say? Illinois State. Sorry. You have a dominating win against Southern Ill early in the season, who was number 5 when they came in
Right.
here, and then they end the season unranked.
That's what makes it so funny. I was talking about last week on the show. Do you cheer for Southern Hill because you want them to
Now you do.
be good, so it's a resume win, but at the same time, you don't want them taking up our playoff spot. So it's a weird.
Yeah.
I want them to do well, but not that well.
How many
It's
teams
strange.
will they take from the Missouri Valley?
It's got to be
1,
4
2.
minimum.
How many?
4 minimum,
5,
right?
You would
Yeah,
think
I think they take 5.
you would think they got to take 4. So do we fall into that? South Dakota
No.
State's 1, South Dakota's 2, North
North
Dakota's
Dakota.
3. Are we the 4th best team? Usually you had to be one of the top 3 and you were in. If we're the 4th best
Well-
team in the conference with the right losses to the teams ahead of us,
You're right.
are we in?
We
Or
could be the 4th best team.
yeah, or do we
Well,
hope
you
that
know, how Northern
someone ahead of us, like a Northern Iowa or someone, just falls apart in the second half of the year, and we take their spot by the wins? So but who the hell knows? So
Well, yeah, I mean that's the other thing is Northern Iowa for real, or I mean
Didn't they just get smacked?
I don't know.
the
Yeah,
Jackrabbits
smacked by
hammering.
South Dakota.
Northern Iowa doesn't seem to play well
6
outdoors.
points.
Yeah. Or only against us.
So
All right, we ready to go 1-0?
1-0, baby. Let's
All right,
go.
Let's transition. All right. Illinois State Redbirds are at Youngstown State, the Ice Castle, 2 p.m. on October 21st on ESPN Plus nationally. Just reviewing Illinois State, how they're doing this year. So far, they are 4-2. They beat Dayton 41-0, beat the Leathernecks of Western Illinois 34-18, lost a heartbreaker to Eastern Illinois 14-13, destroyed Lindenwood 48-17, and were competitive against South Dakota State 40-21. And then Indiana State, they blew out last week 44-7. As I mentioned in the coaches poll, they are number 25. In the AP poll, they are receiving votes. Just a quick note that I wrote down about the matchup in general. Youngstown State holds the edge as they are 10-9 overall against Illinois State. We won the last 2 games. We're on a 2-0 streak, beating them in 2022 and 2019. We haven't lost to them since the 2018 season. Last year was a crazy game. If you remember, we had about 3 of those games that went down to the last play. Illinois State was one of them. We beat them 19-17 last year, and Mitch Davidson threw a 12-yard pass to our All-American Bryce Oliver with 10 seconds left. That was the only score of the game in the second half. So there was no points in the second half up until the very last play, or maybe 1 second left on the clock when we scored that game-winning touchdown pass. Head coach Brock Spack, he's been there since 2009 to present, so he's been there quite a long time. We are very familiar with them. Just to quickly go over my scouting report on Illinois State and what I have on them. On third downs and fourth downs, they actually are number 14 in the country. So that money down again, they're very good at converting. In comparison, we're number 18, so we're very good converting offensively as well. We're right there with them. On first downs, they're 16 in the country, so they take really long drives. They're not so much of an explosive team. They just drive down the field and they convert on third downs. Penalties against them, they're number 11 in the country and number 2 in the conference. So very little penalties against them. Their standout players on offense, excuse my pronunciation as I'm not exactly an Illinois State fan. I don't follow the team. But their quarterback, Zach Anexad, you guys could correct me if you want.
Anetstad.
Thank you.
Panic
Thank
state.
you. From the German. Thank you. He's a tall, 6'3", 220-pound senior transfer from Minnesota. He actually went to the IMG Academy down here in Florida. He is actually number 6 in pass completion, so in efficiency. So he's number 6 in the country. For comparison, Mitch Davidson's actually number 7. So we have a quarterback that's just as good. And then their linebacker, Amir Abdullah, 6'3", 215-pound junior, is number 8 in the country for tackles for loss. So he gets in the backfield. Either they send him on blitzes or he gets in the backfield pretty quickly for run plays. But he is a big load with some wheels that can really get down the field. I'm going to turn over to Dan on a scouting report.
Yeah, I mean, I start with just that role I like to talk about. They're averaging 33.5 points a game, and they're only giving up 16. So there's a team that 30-20 role, they fit right in there, and that's why they're where they're at right now. The 2As, they're big players, Annikstad and Abdullah. Those are going to be the focal points of what they are right now. They're both impressive. Sal, you brought up a lot of good things. Is this the most balanced team we've faced? They're very similar to us. They run the ball. They pass the ball. You talked about the efficiency of third down and first down. I mean, these two teams are very similar. This game's always been tight. I mean, going back 20 years, these Illinois State games are just, you guys remember those games. My last 2 points, this is really my entire scouting report is this. How do we rattle the quarterback? And Kurt and Kyle will touch on this even more. The whole thing comes down to me is our D-line versus their O-line. In my mind, nothing else matters with the scouting report, in my opinion. It's that one thing. How does our D-line do against their O-line? And we need to have a big week there because of the players they got. So, on to you, Kyle.
Yeah, so you guys took a lot of what I was going to say, so keep it nice and short here. They do like to run the ball, averaging just about 200 yards per game, rushing the ball. Pretty balanced, like Coach Kopp said, around 200 yards, 215 yards passing per game. A couple big backs, over 6 foot, 200-pound backs. Almost have half of the touchdowns scored for the team this season. Not quite, almost, but I think that's where we're going to need to make a statement is continue to have that extremely stout run defense, shut them down. And then when we do have opportunities to pressure the quarterback, we have to make it count because, like Sal said, he's very good at completing the ball, getting it downfield. It doesn't look like he has one receiver that, is a game breaker. He spreads the ball out. He goes where the defense lets him go with it. He's a talented kid. Like Sal said, he's a transfer from Minnesota. I think he's only the second walk-on freshman to start in the NCAA next to Baker Mayfield. So PJ Fleck gave him the start. He earned his job. He started 3-0 for the Gophers as a freshman, and then battled some injuries. And you know how that goes in college. And some other guys came in probably looking for a breath of fresh air, new scenery here. But he's doing pretty well with the opportunities he has, and he has this Illinois State team competing every week. And so I think our defensive line needs to step up big, stopping the run, and getting after them when they can.
Curdy.
All right, boys. So I got to give a shout out to my wife first. She took the girls to a Halloween party yesterday, so I got a true hour to watch film yesterday, and I spent all of my time watching the Illinois State-South Dakota State game. So Illinois State, last year, Coach Phillips already mentioned it. They lost the FCS Defensive Player of the Year, Zeke Vandenberg. He's with the Miami Dolphins right now. He's on IR. They replaced him with Sal's boy, who he just pronounced his name perfectly. Nice job, Sal. Amir Abdullah, Division II transfer out of Nebraska Kearney. Same conference as Pittsburgh State. Shout out to our boy Brian Wright. Let's go. He had 8 sacks in the loss against Eastern Illinois. Searle, could you imagine having 8 sacks in a loss?
No.
He's a beast.
Hot.
Now, he's a beast, but I also think this defense doesn't know what to do with him. Brock Spack used to be 4-3, 4 down linemen, 3 linebackers, cover 4. We would eat them up offensively. Andre Barbosa, 2 touchdowns in the first half, probably one of the best throws I've ever had. Jelani Barasa hit a sluggo to end the game against them. It was like we knew exactly what they were doing. Let's do it. They don't do that anymore. They're like an odd front now. They go 5-man down. Now, granted, this is against the rushing attack of South Dakota State, so a lot of 21 personnel, 22 personnel. But I don't think they know what to do with their linebackers because they're like small, fast, and really good. They're like bigger safeties, really. They move well, which is good. Safety number 3, Keandre Jackson. He's their leading tackler, 46 tackles, 6 TFLs from the safety position. So clearly he can come. Ty Niekamp, I think, is the son of the defensive coordinator or one of the coaches. He's playing as a redshirt freshman, and he's their second leading tackler with 41. So clearly the defensive intelligence is there right now from him. Those are probably the 3 of their better players. I think they're really over-aggressive, and the South Dakota State game was interesting because Anetstad fumbled as he got a first down as they were going to drive to make it a 1-score game. And you know who called the game was Missouri State tight end Clay Harbor. You guys remember Clay Harbor? Played in the NFL. Mm-hmm. Yeah, dude, let's go. He called the game. So anyway, Anetstad fumbles and gives South Dakota State back the ball. 2 of South Dakota State's touchdowns were both misdirection. I think this defense is over-aggressive, and if we can hit them on any kind of misdirection, the big plays are definitely there. I think their front 7 hides their secondary because there's places to throw the football. I don't know how Coach Troy's going to handle it, but I think the weakest part of their defense is the secondary.
Nice, Curdy.
Hey, thanks. This is what happens when your wife takes your kids away. You get to have some fun and watch film.
That's the scouting report of the year right there. That's the scouting.
I started with you if I knew you put on all the film time, man. We would have just not even given a scouting report.
Yeah.
YouTube is amazing. I'm so happy.
Scouting report of the year by
It's so funny because in my head, all I hear is like, hey, run it back, Kurt. Run it back one time. Run it back. I'm like, Jesus, I'm still hearing this.
Well, real quick, before we get to the keys of the game and score prediction, just want to share any Illinois State stories from the past. I just had a couple I just want to run by, and I'll say them quickly. One was, I can't remember, it was 08 or 09 under the Haycock era. We were like done. Like we were just playing for nothing, and it was the last game of the year. Illinois State comes into the Ice Castle, and for nothing to play for, and they were going to the playoffs, and we kicked their butt. Like we dominated, and we won by a couple touchdowns, and that was, I mean, back then only 16 teams made the playoffs. I think it was 16, right? So it was much shorter. So they were like a top 15 team in order to get in at a large bid. You had to be really good. And with our loss, it knocked them out of the playoffs, and I just remember just kicking their butt and dominating. And then, of course, we all remember on the other side, Coach Wolf's first year. I still remember Carol from the Courtyards was on the bus with us. She made the trip. It was that crazy year that we lost every game at the end. And this game's so crazy, I actually had to just write down or put on my sheet. We ended up losing 41-39. But just so everyone knows, just like last week, you know, we like to be critics, but we're at fault here on the podcast too. We were down 35-17. Sounds a little familiar. Yet I have here Jermaine Cook catches a pass from Kurt Hess, 24-35. Cook runs it in, 32-35. Stephen Blows kicks a field goal, 39-35. And then I have here Kurt Hess runs, our very own Kurt Hess, runs a 7-yard touchdown, which was a 96-yard drive to top it off. And we
How
only
much time
did
was left? How much time was left?
22 seconds.
Wasn't it like
Jiminy
I was
Christmas.
gonna say 19 seconds or
22
something?
seconds. And then in 2 plays, Illinois State with 2 passes, they finished with a 40-yard touchdown pass to win 41-39 on the last play of the game. We remember that was a very long night. Also, if you guys remember it, our hallway at the courtyard had a party involving 2 or 3 apartments. You remember we came home pissed off. We all went to bed, and I still remember someone knocking on my door. I think it was Jimmy Kinnick who lived with us, saying, "Sal, you need to wake up." And I was like, "Dude, I gotta be up at 5 a.m. to break down film. That's in like 3 hours." He's like, "No, the police are here." So I get up, and the police are asking about this party, and Carol's there, and I was like, "Carol, you were at the game with us, like you know we're involved." And she's like, "Ah, we know." But someone had taken the fire extinguisher, and I guess maybe a fog hallway, right? She asked us if we knew someone's name, and I really didn't know who this person was. They apparently lived across the hall from us. Did you guys know he lived there?
I didn't know he lived there.
No,
I knew he
I
was
was-
friends with the people that live there.
I didn't know who he was.
I was the one talking to her in the doorway with the police, and I was like, "No," I'm like, "I have no idea who this kid is. No one's answering me." Sal's half asleep on the couch, and we know the other half of the story. But anyways, like no one's
We
answering me,
can't
so
say
I
that on
said,
air.
"No, we don't know him." And I don't know. It's our show. We can say whatever we want. Like if you want me to, I will.
No.
But just like, all right, listen, get out of here. Like it's 3 a.m. and basically slam the door on Carol and the police.
Yeah, I don't remember that part of it. Any other Illinois State stories?
I got one from my junior year. Not a great memory of mine, but just the story of mine, and it's got to do with Coach Kopp. So I'll talk about it.
Let's go.
Illinois State on the road. Kurt, what was the score? Were we up 28-0 at half?
Which year?
Junior year.
We
Junior
lost?
year, sorry. Yeah, we lost. That's
Yeah,
when,
we were up 28-7, and they scored with like a minute left in the half. It was 28-14 at half.
This is
So it's
2012,
14 and a
right?
half.
2012.
12.
This is 2012. So this is kind of like where I was took over the starting job, third week of the season. I was playing okay. And I can't lift my arm 6 inches away from my body. Like I couldn't put any weight on it. And shout out JD in the training room telling me to quit every day.
Erica Chung.
Shut me down for that week, Erica Chung. And I was really, really defeated. And I dressed for the game as like an emergency reserve, worst case scenario, because by the time Saturday rolled around, I could get in a 4-point stance. I couldn't get in a 3-point stance or whatever. Looked like we had the game in our grasp. We were pretty dominant all game until the fourth quarter when I think, what's his face, Colton Daniel, the Bachelor or whatever,
Colton Underwood
took over the game. Colton Underwood.
Elks
the
knows all
Bachelor.
about him.
Elks knows about him. Kurt knows about him.
Yep.
Long story short is I'm talking to Kopp. I think it was after the season. And he looks at me. He's like, I blame that loss on you for not playing. And I was like, dude, that's rough, man.
I still blame
I
you.
was already defeated. I was already upset for just like I was dressed and I was standing. I was like glued to Coach Sim's hip the whole game. I'm like, dude, I'll play out of a left-handed stance, like whatever I got to do. So just bummer memory there. That's followed up by a good senior game at home. Nice big win against them. I think it was like 45-28 or something.
59-21.
Dominant. 59-21.
Well,
I got one real quick. I
Very
got to
cool.
give a shout out though to Jelani. Jelani, Sal, that year 2010 that we lost, I had erased from my memory, so I appreciate you bringing all that stuff back up. That was good to go through that again. But I think it was the next year where we were like, this isn't going to happen again, and we were tied up with them at home 28-28, and right here, sluggo, baby, to Jelani Barraza. It was slant and go on like 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, right over his shoulder. He caught it. We sealed the game, kneeled it. It was perfect. Andre Barbosa, I think, was that game, too, in the first half. They couldn't cover Dre. We hit him on a free play for like a 50-yard touchdown. It might have been the best pass I've ever thrown, 50 yards right over his shoulder. But also, Cyril, to that game where we were up 28-7, our offense went so flat for like 2.5 quarters. They came all the way back, right? Like they ended up winning, I think it was 35-28. And I remember we were in a spot route, which is just a 5-yard hitch route. Guy was open, whatever, threw it to him. Ball got batted down. I caught the ball right to me. I was sitting in the pocket, threw it, caught it.
I remember.
And I dropped it. And I was like, oh, shit, I didn't catch that. And thankfully, I was on the good side of some bad Missouri Valley football conference officiating. They were like, no, it's incomplete. That's incomplete. I can admit now on the air, it was 100% a fumble. Yep. And just embarrassing to go to film the next day. Coach was like, hey, what are you doing on this? You dropped the ball. Don't catch that ball. Don't touch that thing. I was like, okay, I got it, all right? It was half a second. So that was, I hadn't thought about that in a long time. That was cool. That was a stupid-ass moment.
Of all those stories, I think my favorite part of all of them was the Erica Chun name drop. That was awesome.
She might be listening. Shout out, Erica. What's up?
Man.
Well, real quick, look, we got to get in our score predictions and keys of the game. But before we do ours, Cyril, YouTube live chat, any predictions in there? Any shout-outs? What's going on?
Yeah, there's a lot. I think we need to do this every week. It looks like we got a good turnout on YouTube Live tonight. Starting out with all YSU picks here, So just in case I forget to name out the winner here, Nico's got the Penguins winning 38-31.
Let's go, baby.
Penguin Nation has the Penguins winning 27-16. Ricky Davis, our teammates, got them winning 31-24.
Yo, what up, Rick?
Richard Wolf, super fan of the show, super fan of the Penguins, has them winning 38-3. We love to see it. Big faith in that defense there, Rich. And then I saved the best for last. My boy, Demo 98, spent a lot of time in the film room with him, spent a lot of time practicing and individuals with him. Has the Penguins winning 42-38 with a hail to the Youngstown, baby.
Yo, let's go, Moss.
Nice.
That's a lot. I love that. Yeah, we should definitely let everyone just pick. And you recorded it. I'm going to record some of those names and scores between everyone
I got it written down.
And us. Whoever gets the closest score, we should just kind of like have on the show to make picks for the rest of the Valley that next week.
Dig.
We'll see if anyone's better than we are, which that's very easy to do. Keys of the game. I'm going to start, if y'all don't mind. My keys of the game, they're definitely an offensive team that could score a lot of points for a really good quarterback, just like the rest of the conference. I don't think their defense is that good. I think they have a weak defense. That being said, in order to stop their offense, we're going to have to blitz, send a lot of pressure. Of course, the D-line is going to have to do their thing. But I think we need to rally this quarterback. And then offensively, again, they have a really good offense. So we need to keep pace with them. We got to score a lot of points because I don't know if we can hold them down as far as stopping them like we did Southern Illinois. I think we really got to score a lot of points. If they're going to score a lot of points, I think it's going to be definitely a shootout. But I have YSU winning 35-24. Curdy.
I think name of the game for us. I'm just going to go offensively. Although on their offense, number 2, the receiver's pretty good. They'll throw that ball up to him, and he can make some plays now. He's pretty good. I think we have to execute to be aggressive. I think we need to get first downs so that we can take shots against their secondary. You can't just come out and take shots on first down. They may be calling a field cat blitz or something. I think you have to execute, stay ahead of the chains so that we can be aggressive. It's kind of a double thing right here. I'm going to go with my same exact score from last week. I think we're due for an explosion. I think it's 42-21. We play better at home right now, and 42-21 Penguins.
I think it's me, Sal. Yep. I got us winning 34-17. I got 3 keys to the game. No big plays. This quarterback's going to complete passes, but tackle them. Let's not give up huge plays. We need a big special teams play at home. That's been, whether we get a block punt, a great punt return, we need one of those. We're due for one. And run the ball. We got to run the ball to set up those, to pass off the run and be complimentary there. And I would love to see us involve our tight ends and more of the wide receivers. We've got 3 or 4 really good wide receivers. Spread the ball out and get our tight ends in the game. And I like us 34-17.
Yeah, I mean, I almost had identical scores to you guys, so I had to change it up just a little bit, just so I'm a little. But I think the key to the game is shutting down that run. I think they run to set up the pass there, and then, I think the defensive line needs to make up some of those lost sacks that they didn't get last week. So I do think there's going to be opportunities there to get those plays, because I do think that we are going to score a lot of points. I got my final prediction: YSU winning 38-24.
Interesting picks. Well, let's transition. Everyone's good in Illinois State. We're ready. I mean, this podcast is going to leave it all on the field, so we'll definitely be tuning in. Let's transition. Time for picks around the valley. I'm going to turn over to Searle.
So we got our ad. Sorry, I just totally distracted there. Bringing back our ad again here. Word from our sponsors: leading Penguin supporter in the Valley for over 100 years, Leiden Oil Company. Famous words of my boss, Paul Leiden: dedication fuels success, and he is really dedicated to this program and cheering these boys on. So we thank the Leiden family for everything they do. When we were there, feeding us all our Jeff Crystal meals and doing a lot behind the scenes that the team doesn't necessarily know about today.
Thank you, brother. Well, let's get into these picks. All the games are played this Saturday, October 21st. Of course, as always, say who is going to win and who is going to cover. We'll go in our traditional order: myself, Kurt, Dan, and then Searle. First game, South Dakota is at Indiana State at 1 p.m. South Dakota is -17. I have the South Dakota Yotes winning and covering.
Coyotes to win and cover.
Coyotes to win and cover, and thanks to the Leiden family. They're the best. The best.
Make the Yotes 4 for me. I got them winning and covering.
Illinois State is at Youngstown State. Youngstown State is a -6.5 favorite. Looking over at our scores, it looks like we all picked them to cover. So I'll just take us all down for Youngstown State to win and cover. Everyone's cool with that, right?
Let's do it.
All right, let's move on. Murray State is at Missouri State, 3 p.m. Missouri State, a -18.5 heavy favorite. Missouri State, I have winning, but that is a heck of a lot of points. I think Murray State will cover the points. I'm going Murray State with the points.
Same for me, Sal.
I'm going to go, I'm going to take Missouri State. I'm going to give those points.
Yeah, Missouri State looks like they can score a lot of points in a game against bad teams. So I will take the Bears to cover.
Interesting game. Actually, the last 3 games are interesting. I really want to know your thoughts. South Dakota State, number 1 in the country, visits Southern Illinois, 3 p.m. The Jackrabbits of South Dakota State are a -13.5 favorite. We'll get our picks in, but again, it's one of those: do we want Southern Illinois to win? Because that will definitely put them in the postseason and make us look good on our resume, but it will be a playoff spot. But to the picks, I have South Dakota State winning and covering. But that'll be interesting if they can play on the road very well.
Yeah, I'll take South Dakota State against Southern Ill, win and cover.
I got the Jackrabbits winning and covering.
Jackrabbits to the cover. Let's go.
Do we want the Salukis to win? I don't think we do.
I think we want to build up the Jackrabbits so when we beat them,
I
they're
agree.
undefeated. Right now, at least.
Western Ill is at the collapsing North Dakota State, 3:30 p.m. North Dakota State is an extremely heavy favorite, minus 38. They're definitely going to win, and they're going to win big, but I just can't imagine North Dakota State scoring 39 points. They're probably going to put up 4 touchdowns, maybe 5, and then coast. I have the Leathernecks covering the points.
Yeah, same. Western with the points.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say the Bison cover.
I mean, that's not a limb. I'm going to say soundly that the Bison cover. I mean,
I
Missouri
was going to
State
say
came
that's
in
not a
to-
limb either.
We're talking 52 to 10. It's 42.
Missouri
52
State.
to 10.
Missouri State beat them by 41 points at home. So North Dakota State's a little pissed off. I think they're gonna score.
Say what you will. In the Valley, I think I've picked against the Bison every game. Just saying, I'm 2-0. Anyway, North Dakota, I think this is going to be an interesting game. North Dakota is at the Unidome against Northern Iowa, 5 p.m. North Dakota favored. They are minus 4.5. I think when Northern Iowa's at the Unidome, they are one of the best teams in the country. I think I have Northern Iowa money line. I think they're going to actually win and cover. I think they're going to win the game.
I'll take North Dakota to win and cover.
I'm going to take North Dakota to win and cover. I mean, after a huge win like that, I'm a little scared to do that in the Unidome, but
Be hung over, man.
you know, what's that?
They're going to be hung over.
I agree.
Hanover.
I agree,
Be
but
hung over.
yeah.
No. When I was traveling in South Dakota, I was in the hotel with the North Dakota. What are they? The Fighting Sioux or the frickin'
Fighting
Eagles?
Hawks,
Eagles.
Hawks, something
Hawks.
like that.
Fighting Hawks or whatever. Shared a hotel with the softball team there. So give me North Dakota to beat the Panthers.
You sound like a guest on College Game Day. You know how they're always like, well, I got a friend who his mom's an alumni of that school, so
It's
I'm picking them to
subliminal.
win.
It was subliminal messaging. Don't pick against North Dakota.
I love the breakdown. I think that's it. I kind of wanted to stick to the Valley this week. I didn't really want to go outside, so we're really entrenched in the Valley at this point. And like Dan said, if we could be a top 4 team in the Valley, I don't see them not taking 4 teams in the Valley. So let's stick to that. Before we close up, Searle, you basically went over the YouTube live, but any last comments, shout outs, or questions from that before we say goodbye
Yes.
to the YouTube live crowd?
So Gibbs came in with a late score prediction. Shout out the boys. YSU 30-24. He said, "Don't leave the game in the hands of the specialists." And then Michael Metzinger giving us some love, hoping we can have a big day rushing the ball. Said
Nice.
South Dakota State rushed for 374 on this Illinois State defense. So I hope Tyshawn King, Dre Rushton, I have them boys got $150 each minimum.
I like that. I like Mike's point there. I like that.
And like Searle said earlier, the YouTube live chat box is live. And I mean, it is active. Love to see everyone in there. Moss, Ricky Davis, Richard Wolf.
Moss man.
It was definitely active today. Oh, even my wife was even in this chat box. That was awesome. Love to see it. Definitely, we'll be recording. Of course, follow us on Instagram to know when that live stream is going. We like to be Tuesday 8 p.m., but just like you, we all have lives. It could be a day earlier, could be a day later. Kurt will keep you updated on that. Curdy, I know you went over the Instagram already. Anything else to share?
Yeah, if you guys don't mind doing a quick 60-second thing here, I'm going to ask you a question that I talked to our followers about earlier this week. And I'm going to give you some time because I'm going to preface this. If we could come up, this could be a segment for another time, but if we could come up with a starting 5 of YSU football players to play in the Horizon League for basketball, I think we're pretty close to basketball season starting. So I want you to just think about one name of somebody that you either played with or know of that you could see going out there in the Horizon League and playing basketball. I'm going to give two names. Jelani's going to get mad at me, but I'm going to give two names from our followers, and then you guys can finish up the other three, okay? This will be our starting five.
Okay, I got one in mind.
No prep at all, but I
Yeah,
got great
I'm ready.
reviews from Brian Radakovich, who was a two-sport athlete, played football and basketball. Andrew, we know him and love him. That's his brother. Heard he was a dog. And then D'Angelo Wilson / Randy Lewis. Randy and D'Angelo, I guess they called him D-Lo. I got great reviews for both of those guys in terms of like handles, defense, shooting the ball. So Brian Radakovich, I gave you three, damn, sorry. And then
Yeah, you
Randy
did.
Lewis / D-Lo.
That you took Randy Lewis out of my mouth.
Oh,
I was going to say
gosh,
Randy
he's
Lewis,
on our
point
team,
guard.
man.
He
My
was
bad.
he
Go ahead.
should have just played on our basketball team. I mean, he was okay on football, but he was a hell of a basketball player.
He had offers. He had Division I and Division II offers to go play
He should have
basketball.
played on, he should have been our
Corner for
point
us.
guard, man. He was better than most of the team, almost all the team. He was legit.
Great
Can I use
leadership
Randy Lewis?
skills too.
Yeah, I'm going Randy.
All right, Randy, D-Lo, and Brian Radak. Who you
Matt
got?
the high.
I got Andrew Johnson, man. All he talked about in the locker room was how he was a hooper, and I'm not going to take anything that kid said and discredit him, because if he said he could hoop, I'm gonna believe that he could hoop, because he was an absolute dog on the field.
Let's go.
So
Good feet, too.
If he got
Good
Matt
feet.
on the court down low, I bet he get some boards left
All
and
right,
right.
so we got Brian Radak, probably center, power forward with Andrew Johnson, and then we probably have two guards in Randy and D-Lo, D'Angelo Wilson. Cop, you can hit us with a small forward or just best player available.
I'm gonna
Do
go
we do
with
coaches?
I'm gonna go with Andrew Williams.
Yo, heard he's a dog, man.
Now, if I had to go old school, I'd throw Herb Williams in there. But
Herb listens to the show.
oh yeah,
So
Herb can ball.
in the spring, the coaches used to play, and I mean, it goes without saying, Jerry Osowski was an absolute monster. Like, if it was a loose ball, like, move the hell out of the way.
He's the Kevin McHale of the team. The Kevin McHale.
Gibbs asks if Ashton Ward counts, since he played in our spring game in 2000.
Oh, yeah.
Shoot, man.
Good
So
call,
does he count?
Gibbsy. That's a good call by Gibbsy.
He's head coach at where? Villa St. John's, or what is it, in Cleveland?
Villa Angela St. Joe's.
Yes, yes.
Well, let's wrap it up. We all good?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's transition. Again, thank everyone for tuning in. This is the Youngstown Penguin Football Podcast. You can follow us on Instagram, Whitetown Penguin Podcast. Ask any questions, comments, anything you need. You can follow us anywhere podcasts are available, Apple, Spotify, wherever. Give us a 5-star review. Please share. We are always on YouTube Live Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Follow us on Instagram if there's any changes. There was today. We did push back to Wednesday, 8 p.m. Follow the Instagram page to know such things. But again, Illinois State is at Youngstown State, 2 p.m. at the Ice Castle. It looks like the high is about 56, and there is a chance of rain at about 40%. We'll see as Youngstown weather changes on an hourly basis if that holds up. But again, I am your host, Sal Guarda. With me, my co-host, as always, Kurt Hess. That is Kyle Stroll, and that is Dan Cobb. Thank you again. And of course, as always, go Penguins.